Yeah, necessity forces me to say something about dear old David Icke. I mean, and some other issues that are important that have been recently come to light in the media and everything. Well, I want to look at the reasons why David Icke, well, I surmise the reasons why David Icke was not permitted to enter Australia. Yeah, well, if you can believe the newspapers, the reasons given were absurd, and someone has to say something about that. First of all, saying that keeping David Icke out of Australia because of his views on vaccines is just getting absurd. That's just getting really absurd. And yeah, it's like it flies in the face of any kind of concept of free speech, and the fact, I mean, a great deal was made in the press. A great deal was made about the fact that Jewish groups, some Jewish groups, were calling David Icke some kind of anti-Semite or Holocaust denier, which and I don't know. I've never actually heard him ever. I've listened. I'm not a big follower of David Icke, to be honest. I've heard him talk on and off over the years on different subjects, and he's has some interesting insights now and then. But I don't know. I mean, it makes you wonder who's pulling the strings to get David Icke banned. I mean, he comes across, when I first encountered David Icke, I thought he was a total clown. And his idea about, you have to do, why not to talk about his idea of the lizard people, that the elites in Western society are secretly half man, half reptile, which is vastly amusing, and it's given birth to a whole lot of yeah, I mean, that's one of the gifts that David Icke has. Is he's given birth to the lizard person as a way of talking about the Illuminati. So he's founded a movement. Now when this always happens, even in Canada. I mean, this always happens with Jewish groups who encounter David Icke, and they immediately get their backs up, and they immediately break out in a rash because he keeps on talking about lizard people and secret elites, and they all automatically start accusing him of talking about them, which is kind of funny. I mean, he goes like, the elites, there's a secret elite, and they're half lizard, half man. And he goes, well, and the Jews go, well, we're an evil cult that controls the world, and hey, he's talking about us. I mean, that's the level of the public discourse that goes around about David Icke's sort of kind of nonsense. And when I first came across him, I thought he was a bit of a clown, and he was a lot like the character Gaston in the Disney production of Beauty and the Beast. I mean, he's in the village trying to whip up a crowd of peasants to go and get torches and pitchforks and clubs and go and raid the castle of the Duke up on the hill. And he's going, the Duke on the hill is half man, half devil. He doesn't have, human feet. He has goat's feet under his boots, and under his big hat is devil's horns, and we must rise up and kill the beast. Now that's the sort of personality that this sort of kind of Wat Tyler Peasants Revolt kind of character that David Icke is playing, but he's not a real political figure. He's an entertainer. He doesn't come to countries, or he doesn't do tours of Britain or anywhere in order to rouse up a mob to kill the elite. He's an entertainer. He goes and gives talks and fills auditoriums and makes money like a rock star. I mean, it's a show. It's not a political movement. Now, so I mean, yeah, but this is what happens with David Icke, is a lot of people break out in a rash when they hear him, and he gets a lot of flack. But I mean, he's actually, if he's guilty of anything, he's guilty of baiting people, like very cleverly baiting people, as I said with Jewish groups. But what he's talking about, it's sort of connected to some ideas in rabbinical theology. I mean, and that's what David Icke aims at, is hypocrisy. What he's talking about is the hypocrisy, because his ideas of lizard people, and then he defends himself by saying it's from the Bible, I mean, from Genesis 6 and the Nephilim, and that there's some kind of evil, half demon, half human race been running the show since earliest times. Now that whole idea of the Nephilim and that whole reading, it's actually a reading of Genesis 6. That, I mean, there's, if you follow it, there's the Sethite reading and the Nephilim reading. The Sethite reading just talks about the human race in terms of virtuous humans who are in a covenant with God, and rebellious humans who are out of a covenant. And there's kind of unfortunate, it has to be said, racial distinction between the in-covenant group and the out-covenant group. Well, they get their patrimony from the godly people get the sons of God get their patrimony from Seth, and the rebels get their patrimony from Cain. Now, now there's this very popular idea of the curse of Cain. Now, in rabbinical theology actually does, ironically, exactly what David Icke is doing himself. Is the rabbinical theology, you can read, it varies from writer to writer, but there's this idea of Cain, the curse of Cain going down to the, somehow, devolving onto Canaan, not Cain, but Canaan. That's one of the three sons of Noah. And because Canaan was cursed by his father Noah at the whole grapevine incident, there's this idea in rabbinical theology that tries to extend this curse of Canaan onto, they project it back onto Cain, and then they try to project it forward onto, guess what, Esau, Jacob and Esau. And turns out Esau had a Canaanitish wife. And he ended up with a grandson called Amalek. Now, rabbinical theology conflates Esau's grandson Amalek with the Amalekites, who were actually around in Abraham's day. So you can't do that, but they do anyway. They try to say that Moses was talking about the territory of the Amalekites in Genesis 14. They try to say that he was referring to the Amalekites in Moses' day, and projected in Abraham's day, which is a dodgy argument. But the thing is, you have this idea of the Amalekites, and the Amalekites are, in rabbinical theology, the archetypal of the bad seed, the evil gene, the enemy of the Jews, and there's this secret tribe lurking in all the in all the secret elites in the world and all the secret organizations. There's this secret tribe who oppose God and hate the Jews for some reason, and they're still out there. Now this is a political idea. This is good old goodies versus baddies. And in fact, I mean, the rabbis were saying during the First and Second World War, and before that, the Germans were Amalek. The Germans were secretly Amalekites. And before that, in the Napoleonic era, they were saying, the French are the Amalekites. And now they're saying, they used to say the Russians are the Amalekites. The Russians are the bad guys during the Cold War. And then now, in the War on Terror, the Arabs are the Amalekites. And they are characterized by implacable hatred of the Jews and yada yada. And so it's basically war it's just like war propaganda, reducing the government of the day to some kind of enemy of God, which is pretty standard stuff for war propaganda, but that's what David Ickes is doing, is exactly what the Jews do. But see, there's a kind of a half-truth to what, there is a truth that David Ickes is getting at, and that is the European nobility, at least, are horribly inbred. And because the European nobility had this persistent habit of marrying their near cousins and half sisters and half brothers and cousins and things, they became just, that's well known, horribly inbred, and they got all kinds of diseases like hemophilia and and birth defects. Hemophilia is a famous thing that the European elites are known for. But the fact is, look, there's a famous, like, the Habsburg chin is an example of all these just horrible birth defects that were common amongst the Habsburgs and European nobility. Now, the frequency of monstrous births and birth defects has given rise to numberless myths and numberless rumors and numberless stories about hunchbacks and monsters, deformed monsters kept in the attic or kept in the basement, or all that sort of thing. And it's part of this this sort of rabble-rousing personality of David Icke, that he's sort of obliquely referring to when he talks about his lizard people. But I mean, the lizard people he talks about, I've always thought that he was getting it from 1980s science fiction movies and TV shows like V. where there's this, there was a whole rash of those things where, these alien visitors would come and then they'd scope out the political system on the earth and slowly take over all the mechanisms of the power in the society, and you would see people, watching them in secret, and they would, while they didn't realize they were being watched, they would revert to their lizard type and eat babies and all that. So there's all this sort of Hollywood nonsense, Hollywood science fiction stuff that Icke sort of draws on. But that's the thing. I mean, if they want to ban David Icke, why didn't they ban those movies? Why don't they ban science fiction movies? Why not ban vampire films? I mean, they suggest bad things about the nobility, like the count in the castle is a ghoul who drinks the blood of innocent children and blah 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 blah. But if you're going to ban Icke, why don't you ban science fiction and horror movies? I mean, they're saying the same things. Now, it gets this really, and that's what this whole baiting, and rebel-rousing nature of what David Icke does. It seems to piss off a lot of people, but I mean, it can't be that the royal family hate him because he's exposing their evil, but why is David Icke being banned? Because, I mean, there's numberless conspiracy theorists in Australia and all around the world who have all kinds of, make all kinds of wild claims about the royal family. Yeah, I mean, just looking on the internet, the list is endless. I mean, there's the black nobility theories. There's all the U.S. presidents and whoever lived were related to the royal family, and that stuff's endless. Secret societies, and I mean, I don't think they've started banning that stuff. And really, I mean, conspiracy theories. I mean, Marxism is a conspiracy theory. I mean, Marxism is the original conspiracy theory. There's an evil capitalist elite who are all in together, and they all cooperate to keep the poor man down, and all that. And they own the newspapers and they've got the politicians and the ministers and the pulpit in their pocket, and all that. So I mean, why not ban Marxism? If you're going to ban Icke, why not ban Marxism? And they're not going to do that in a hurry, because, to be honest with you, I mean, Marxism is a preferred, the Marxists are, it's a preferred ideology in the elite. I mean, they call it controlled opposition in the conspiracy world, and there's a lot of truth to that. But anyway, moving on to vaccines. Now, vaccines. The thing about vaccines is there is a lot of money in vaccines, and the thing about vaccines is there's very wealthy corporations that have interest in the vaccine companies, and they also have interest in the media. Now, The thing is, there was only, you see, the thing is, there's only a few, of all the manifold diseases that afflict the human race, only a tiny percentage of them are actually amenable to being inoculated against. Typically you can only inoculate someone against a virus. And we're talking about childhood diseases, a handful of childhood diseases, which were historically not that serious. I mean, measles, mumps, rubella,